think all things archetypal and divinatory that we've been talking about, and the yin and the yang, the little bit of the needle movement that I want to bring into this conference is just to shine a little bit of light on how using psychedelics in a casual way is not for everyone, and pulling it back into a deeply reverent and ceremonial aspect for some people is the only way to expose themselves to this, which is for me that way. And that's really, really assisted by bringing all the archetypal work into it. I think that's kind of the pathway that you can take into finding these very protected ceremonial spaces, finding the education of which archetypal systems are going to create that protected space for you.
Hi everyone, welcome to Psychedelic Conversations. Now I have with me Brynja Magnusson. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So Brynja is you're a student of shamanic practice, artist, a visionary in psychedelic genres, and author of archetypal and energetic reference books. Your art is committed to complex systems to image, integrate psychedelic perspectives, and transcribe spiritual archetypes.
Yes.
Very, very powerful indeed. So we'll add all of your links and full bio in the show notes, and your website and some of your art that I would love our listeners to see. But for now, I would like to ask you, what brings you to this work?
Yeah. Well, right now the work is very focused on art, but that's a stepping stone, as many things are, especially when you're working in ceremony and spiritual practice. So in my early 20s, I did a live-in apprenticeship with a Basque shaman over in France for 3 years. And then after that ended, I started publishing my notes, which were about archetypal systems or divinatory systems, things that speak the language of our subconscious or our soul or the ephemeral universe. And I did that for a few years and self-published a bunch of guidebooks and card decks about human design, animal archetypes, the I Ching, yin mysticism. And then at this point now, I'm moving back towards the ceremonial direction. And the stepping stone into that is right now through art, because art puts gravity behind something that you want to come into fruition. So I put art behind my notes because I wanted my archetypal spiritual notes to have power to go out into the world and be shared. And now I'm putting art behind ceremonial practice so that I can cultivate the type of ceremonial work that I want to share with others at some point. But of course, all of this is a very lifelong practice. It takes a very long time to develop the kind of work that I want to do. So I'm letting it go as slowly as it needs to go.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. And so when I met you yesterday, there was a specific painting, the art. It was an image of you, actually, right? Mm-hmm. Do you do that a lot, or is it?
Yeah, a lot of the art is of me. And the reasoning behind that is because my work is aiming to transcribe spiritual experiences. And the most spiritual experiences I've ever had have been in my body. So the most genuine and authentic thing I can do is put myself into the art in the way that I felt it. Since so much of a spiritual experience is felt sensations, putting my body into it and my face and my expression, and also this is the definition of visionary art, which is kind of what the psychedelic art space often calls itself. You're trying to transcribe inner vision. And self-portrait seems to be a bit of a tenet of visionary art, because we're going inside our own vision. So it's very personal to us. So it feels like the most genuine thing I can do it's just keep the focus on my own stuff.
Yeah, yeah. At the same time, connecting that way with others, because I think it's also a very neutral way to connect with others.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
So in that painting, I still want to go back to that, and it's quite moving, because the way I understand it, the art can be a manifestation of like what's in the collective. I know it's your own journey, but it almost felt like universal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it has a lot of animals in it, and I consider animals to be the original language of the human race. There's many languages of animal meaning, depending on what culture you go to, but it's so deep in our limbic brain, in our ancient brain. So when you pull animal archetypes into any setting, you create this universal language that's kind of weaving a story. And that's what I wanted to bring here as an artist. I don't get to go on stage and give a talk, but I can still have a very intricately crafted message visually, and see if that can, move the needle of the type of communication that I want to put out there.
Yeah, makes sense. Do you know which painting it was that I saw here? Is it on your website?
It's not on my website yet, because it's brand new. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, can we talk about it? Because we'll have that for our audience to see it in this conversation. And so then, if I can remember, there were a black jaguar.
That's right.
If you can just kind of walk us through what was going on there.
Yeah.
And each individual, there's cat, there was...
Yeah, so it actually goes in a wave in the Fibonacci spiral. So there's a double Fibonacci, and one side of the Fibonacci is the Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other side of the spiral, it's an otter, up to a lynx, to a hawk, to a deer, and then into the heart where there's a rabbit or a hare. And so that's the center.
Explain that to us, please. That's very powerful.
Yeah, so if we go in the reverse order of that, if you start in the heart, the hare is over the heart. And some people think of rabbit medicine as having to do with sexuality and fertility. And for me, I think of it as facing fears. So putting the rabbit over the hare over the heart is like saying that there's terror, there's things that are terrifying, especially when we open our heart. And the hare is a prey animal. They're constantly walking alongside the fear of death, and they just keep moving. So I connect this also into the 28th hexagram of the I Ching, which is an ancient proverb that says, if you're in a terrifying situation, you're in a house that's about to collapse and it's flooding with water, you're in danger, you must move forward. You must keep walking. Don't be paralyzed by it. And so it's the archetype of befriending our fear and moving forward. And so that kind of sets off the spiral, that if we can have that ability to walk through our terror, our spirits come to support us, and that's kind of what's happening. It's opening up a spiral of movement and change. And so then here comes the deer, which is bringing gentleness, and that sometimes there's a challenge that's so great, we cannot face it in any other way besides with a gentle approach. Sometimes the worst obstacles can be melted away through softness. The hawk, which is coming down to the ear and saying, there's something to listen to, there's something to be heard and communicated. The lynx has to do with listening to the past, listening to our cyclical habits that we get stuck into, and listening so deeply that we are able to change it. So when, each one of these animals, when they come into our life, it's indicating that it's a time when we're able to start confronting that. And then down to the otter, which has to do with nourishment and femininity and friendship and mothering. And so all these things they play into our journey of opening fear. And I think it's very personal for each person. When you face your fear, all of your own archetypes will come up and rally around you for whatever that fear is to be addressed. And then the Black Panther has to do with jumping into the unknown and the fear of the unknown and integrity. And so we can kind of connect. I think of this painting as kind of being, this part of the painting as being on the spiritual side of that we can befriend that unknown or that fear of death, opening the heart, and everything spirals around us. And so I think overall it's saying there's a rallying around you, and the spirits love when you take a leap of faith. The spirits love when you face something that's terrifying and you keep moving with it and you keep looking at it. And that's the expression on the face is, I will look at my fear and not flinch away and watch everything in my life start to open and develop and spiral.
Wow, so moving, so profound.
Thank you.
How did you get to this place?
Yeah, it actually started with animal messages. I had a very spontaneous spiritual experience in my early 20s, and I started having animal interactions that were telling me what was either about to happen or what was going on in my life. And so it was happening so much, and it was so accurate that I started kind of letting my life be guided by these messages. And during that time that was starting to happen, I had another experience that pointed me in the direction that said, your life path is to study shamanism, which I know will be a very long path. And that's when I started apprenticing over in France. And you can I think of the beginning of any journey into facilitating or knowing a spiritual side of life. A lot of it has to do with collecting systems. So this has been kind of the journey of my 20s and probably my 30s and maybe the rest of my life, is trying to collect as many systems of archetypal awareness as possible. Because as you're moving into the realm of the subconscious or the psyche or the feminine, things start to get more symbolic, more chaotic, more paradoxical. It can be very ungrounding. And having systems kind of stabilizes you. Having ability to look into any circumstance of life and see that there's a mirror there, that you can read a symbol. It gives you the ability to better communicate with your own intuition, have a little more autonomy of how you want to act in those situations, and lets you go farther into whatever belief or practice. And also support, because I think having many languages of archetype helps you help others, especially if you're going with people into their psyche and their subconscious.
Mm-hmm. I know we had a similar conversation yesterday, and then there will be a time where you said that you'll have to just like leave those systems. And
yeah, this was told to me by an Ayurvedic doctor, where she's studying Ayurveda in India, going to the highest possible level that she can go in collecting this 5,000-year-old system. And she said that they told her that you want to learn every single bit of information that you can, and then once you have all of it, you forget it. Because if you get too hung up in the information and that I have holding all of that knowledge, it will get in the way of listening to your own intuition, because ultimately your body has the answer and it will be a felt sense. And if you're too much in your head, you won't be able to get into the sensation that your body's indicating for you. So it's that middle path. It always comes back to the middle path. And I think that can really apply to any system or practice where you're trying to gain as much information as possible. You want to hold it very gently. And the more information you acquire, the more gently you hold it, so that you can let go of it and not hang on too tightly or get too hung up on that things have to be a certain way, and coming down out of the head into the heart.
Mm-hmm. Makes me think of it like a life science almost, like you are somewhat, like creating like new neural pathways through collecting systems. Mm-hmm. And then when you have the courage to just kind of forget and let go of these, mm-hmm. they can just go and do, find different ways to just kind of land. But then here you have the actual neural pathways that's going to stay with you because of that engagement, because of that learning process.
Yeah.
And so we want to focus on this rather than, because that's safe, isn't it? Like when you hold them on to the systems, it's safe.
Right. Yeah. And that presents its own danger, having more and more and more systems. And then they start to conflict with each other. When you collect enough systems, they're, even within like astrology, you have different beliefs in astrology of how it works, and they start to conflict. But you can get into the realm of paradox and see that everything's reflecting, just maybe in a little bit of a different way. Holding it lightly has been, and eventually, like you said, you let go of it, and you let yourself kind of be supported by it.
Yes, yeah, because that's how it feels true to me. Yeah. It's like in anything, like when I learned this from a mentor a while ago, always says, when you stay in the state of a student, like learning, beginner's mind, and then each time you're learning a new thing, like leave everything at the door. Come in with this beginner's mind each time until you no longer need to like engage in this kind of activities. But the thing is, what you're talking about, it's probably very terrifying for a lot of women, because it just has this association that you need to now trust yourself.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to that?
It makes me think of when I did this apprenticeship in my early 20s for 3 years, and then I left it. And leaving an apprenticeship is an initiation of its own. You go into a shamanic apprenticeship because you want initiations. That's kind of the joke, is that eventually leaving that behind is the final initiation. The final initiation a shaman might give you is the process of getting away from them, which might not be very easy, because there can be a lot of control and power dynamics in that situation. And I think also, it doesn't have to be a shamanic apprenticeship. It could be a divorce, or it could be leaving a system or a practice that you've outgrown. When you step out of dependence on a system, giving you this sense of, safety because somebody else has the answer, it's not quite as fun to not be able to place all the answers in another person. But it's incredibly empowering. And whenever I meet women who have just gone through a divorce, I often think to myself, I want a divorce. I don't want, maybe not the marriage part, but like the empowerment of leaving behind something that's a crutch. It's quite terrifying, but it's also incredibly empowering. And it seems, especially for women, there's a train of thought that I find really interesting about how men and women grow spiritually in a different way. It's the same way of how our conscious mind and our subconscious mind, they grow differently. Men and women might grow differently spiritually or physically. Our conscious mind grows through being challenged. You know how the subconscious mind grows? It's through
internal
praise. So if you want your subconscious mind to grow, you praise it. You tell it how wonderful it is. But if you want,
simple.
Yes. Well, it sounds simple, but it's hard because not a lot of us got that growing up. And yet, if you want your art and your creativity to start coming out of you, you have to praise yourself.
Which is soft, gentle.
Yeah. To say you're doing a great job. Your work is really good. It doesn't suck. It's great. People will like it. And when your subconscious grows this way, it feeds the rest of your life. So the more praise you can get, the better. Fortunately, a lot of people think that critique is the best way to improve your work, which I disagree with. I think it should be like a praise sandwich. There should be praise on both sides and maybe a little bit of critique in the middle, especially if you're going into a creative field. The train of thought was that women, and I don't know if this is true, I'm just finding it interesting to think about, women grow spiritually through developing more ego, and men grow spiritually through letting ego go.
Dissolve.
Yeah, which I find really interesting.
Makes sense and resonates.
And the ego, I think of the ego as being very yang. It's a masculine quality, and we all have an ego. We all have a masculine side. And it's my personal belief that our ego originally evolved in human beings as a method to protect our art, to protect things that we're creating. when humans started to create things, we developed a part of our psyche that will protect the things we create. So if you want to be a good artist, you have to praise yourself, praise the inside, and then protect it with your ego, and then so it can go out into the world. And I think that applies to really anything that you're making. Praise yourself as you make it, and then use your ego to forge it out into the world with like a protective shell around it so that it won't get, beaten down by critique, which will always come.
And then what would be the next step?
Once you go out into the world? Just listen.
Yeah. Do you think does there a time ever comes that we don't need to protect? Like we can just be in the creative?
I think it's always both. It's always the masculine and the feminine.
Dance.
Yeah. Well, while you're home and you're making your things and you're crafting them, I get a lot done. I'll say that. I write a bunch of books. I make a lot of card decks. I make a lot of art. If you saw me in my daily life, it doesn't look like I'm doing anything at all. I don't leave the house. I don't socialize. I'm laying on the floor thinking about things that I want to make. And that's the feminine side of, that's okay, that's allowed. Your creative process is allowed to have a very nebulous, unstructured process. And our masculine says, that's okay. That's okay. You can stay home. You can stay protected. This is my opinion of the highest version of the masculine is it's the protective shell. And it's constantly being nourished by what's going on inside. So all of that creative work, when you let yourself have that relaxed experience with it, if you can really let that come up, it nourishes the part of you that wants to protect it and keep it safe, and then let it go out into the world. Yeah.
I really love this. How do you see this in the world of the biological, relational field? How do you see this manifesting in the relational field?
The ego or the masculine, feminine?
Masculine and feminine.
Yeah, I wrote a book about the feminine, about yin. And it's a sprawling topic because it goes into every single field. But one of the reasons I wanted to write this book was because there's so much yin phobia. We're so terrified of anything feminine, and it's pervasive into every area of life. Like beauty standards are yin phobic. We don't want to have yin body features on our body. Our careers are yin phobic. We don't want careers that embody things that are nourishing and slow and grounding. And yet, if you look back at these ancient texts and proverbs and ancient masters who talk about the yin and yang, they're saying if you want to have spiritual mastery, if you want to have good understanding of how your life works, if you want to have ease in your life, then learn the feminine, know the feminine, support the feminine. Then you'll have the ability to move through your life very easily and with mastery. And so there's a conflict there that our society is terrified of yin, and we're not taught the value of it because yin is always in the background of our conscious awareness. So in order to know it, it has to be specifically pointed out of this is very good for you. Like if we talk about even just yin beauty standards, things that are curvy and round and dark and imperfect, these are all yin features. And our society doesn't value them, doesn't see that it brings a function to our psyche to have yin beauty features, that physical yin features, feminine features, are deeply nourishing to our psyche. To have a mother that has the curviness to hold and nourish an infant is deeply psychologically grounding, and that remains with us our whole lives. So seeing someone with curly hair or a round face, or these round features and body fat, it's actually providing a very stabilizing antidote to things going on in our life during the day. But no one talks about this. No one explains that things that are yin and feminine bring a value into society. So for me personally in my life, putting yin at the forefront of everything that I'm trying to support has allowed me to move very quickly, work very fast, feel nourished and healthy, and feel more relaxed into things about my own physiology that are protective and helpful and nourishing.
Wow, this is very helpful. Super valuable. Thank you so much for sharing. I think all the young women, or even any woman out there, needs to, or feminine, identified as a feminine. I know it's a psychology, it's an energetic field you're talking about, but it's almost like a lot of the biological, like women, the feminine is starved of these conversations.
Yeah, and yet it's kind of the root. And this was the idea behind writing this book, is that if we can, there's so much stigma against things that are slow and in the background or the humble. If we can societally try and lift it up again and see it as the thing we're all striving for. And it's not just women, it's men as well. Men have their anima, their inner feminine, and it reveals a tremendous amount about what's going on with them. You can even say that men hold this sacred inner feminine that's even more potent and should be even as protected as we're trying to protect it in women as well.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the partnership. You know, we're always talking about how women are coming back into society and there's more matriarchy. But if you look back at matriarchal societies, they were not just women in charge, there was women and men. Because a quality of yin is both. It's always both. It's always context. So when we bring anything more onto the feminine realm, it's not less men, it's and men. Because the masculine, by its very nature, forgets, the yang forgets that there's partnership. The feminine loves partnership, knows that the masculine has to come with it into that, whatever it's trying to do. So in focusing on yin, it's always pulling both in and bringing men into the conversation of also healing their feminine.
Wow. Very powerful. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for bringing your voice and your message here.
Of course.
And what would you like to leave our listeners? I know we're coming to the end of our conversation, but I think you need to come back and talk to us in more long form.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I think I would probably leave it with the message that's been top of mind for the entire psychedelic conference. I brought two pieces of artwork here. One is the one that we talked about, and the other one was the big message that I wanted to bring to psychedelic science, which is that it's a painting about calling the directions, which is opening a ceremony and creating your barrier, which creates protection and hygiene and calls in guidance or your spirits or however you want to look at it, and touches into the type of medicine work that we can find internally. And a lot of people come into the psychedelics world in a party atmosphere or a festival atmosphere. And for some people that's really wonderful, but for a lot of people it doesn't align with how psychedelics is going to interact with their soul and their spirit. And it wouldn't have worked for me if that's how I was exposed to it. So I think all things archetypal and divinatory that we've been talking about, and the yin and the yang, the little bit of the needle movement that I want to bring into this conference is just to shine a little bit of light on how using psychedelics in a casual way is not for everyone, and pulling it back into a deeply reverent and ceremonial aspect for some people is the only way to expose themselves to this, which is for me that way. And that's really, really assisted by bringing all the archetypal work into it. I think that's kind of the pathway that you can take into finding these very protected ceremonial spaces, is finding the education of which archetypal systems are going to create that protected space for you. which is an endless conversation of archetypes.
Absolutely. But it just kind of ties everything together.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
So where can our listeners find you? I know we'll have everything in the show notes, but are you on social media at all?
Yeah, so my Instagram handle for my art is brynja.visionaryart. I have also a Instagram just for the books and the card decks, which is Ceremoniance, same as my website. And my website is ceremoniance.com. And and I've got all of my books up online, easy to find up there as well.
Amazing. And we'll look forward to welcome you for another one.
I'd love to.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you so
doing the
much.
work you're doing. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us. Hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. Please do comment and be part of our conversation. I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.